Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we've got a brilliantly terrifying explainer lined up for you all. We are going to be doing a really deep analytical breakdown of a masterful analog horror script, The Neighbor in the Mirror. If you're the kind of person who is just absolutely fascinated by how psychological thrillers build tension, the kind that really gets under your skin, you are in for an absolute treat today. We're going to strip this script completely down to its core mechanics and track exactly how it constructs this feeling of pure, relentless dread.
Right off the bat, the script hits us with this incredible hook. The scariest thing is someone breaking into your house and pretending to be you. Man, that is just such a fantastic piece of writing. It takes a completely universal fear, the classic standard home invasion trope, and just entirely subverts it. Because suddenly, it's not just a threat to your physical safety or your stuff. It's a direct threat to your actual identity. It immediately puts us on edge because it completely violates the one thing we always thought was untouchable, who we are.
Part 1. The Ultimate Intruder. This is where we meet our protagonist, Mark. He's just living alone, having a quiet night in an Ohio suburb, until it's entirely shattered by a totally unexpected 11 p.m. phone call on October 12th from his neighbor, Mr. Henderson. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how tightly compressed the timeline of this horror actually is. We're going to track the terror using the script's exact timestamps. And as you can see, the whole ordeal goes down in just 5 minutes. From the inciting phone call in minute 1, to the hallway realization in minute 2, that sensory encounter in minute 3, the sheer visual shock of the photo in minute 4, and finally the fatal conclusion in minute 5. It beautifully and kind of terrifyingly illustrates how rapidly a super mundane situation can just completely deteriorate into an absolute nightmare.
So in that very first minute, Mr. Henderson drops this absolute bombshell warning. Mark, don't turn around. Just listen to me. I'm looking at my security feed right now. The writer is doing something incredibly clever here to build secondary dread. Think about it. Mark is completely blind to the threat inside his own home. He can't see it. But his neighbor, and by extension us, the audience, can virtually see it unfolding through Henderson's panic. Being explicitly told not to look is honestly way more terrifying than actually seeing the monster right away.
Moving into part 2, the neighbor's warning. Between the 1 and 2.5 minute mark, the tension just skyrockets. Mark is doing something so mundane, literally just getting a glass of water, while Henderson is frantic, describing an active invasion happening right behind Mark's back at the coat rack.
And here's the stark visual contrast of what Henderson is actually seeing. We've got the real Mark, totally human, grabbing water, blissfully unaware. But then you have the entity. It's wearing Mark's exact clothes, it has his hair, but its unnaturally long arms are touching the floor, and suddenly it's crawling upside down on the ceiling right toward the kitchen. This taps so perfectly into the terror of the Uncanny Valley effect. It kind of looks like Mark, sure, but the physics of how it moves are completely monstrous. It twists something familiar into something deeply, deeply wrong. Which brings us to part 3, Sounds in the Dark. Right at the 2:30 mark, Mark finally realizes the danger. He grabs a kitchen knife, and the entire house falls completely silent. But that silence, it's really just a canvas for what comes next. Schlick, schlick, schlick. The script describes this as a soft, wet sound echoing from the hallway, kind of like someone walking around in soaking wet shoes. And wow, what a masterclass in auditory dread. By giving us this highly specific, frankly gross sensory onomatopoeia, the script forces our own imaginations to do all the heavy lifting. We don't even need to see the monster crawling at this point. Just hearing those wet appendages slapping against the dark hardwood floor is far worse than anything they could show us. And then, the entity actually speaks. But it doesn't roar or scream. It calmly reasons with him. "Bill is lying, Mark. Open the door. I just want to help you." This is where the heavy psychological manipulation really kicks in. The thing outside the door is actively trying to isolate Mark from his neighbor, Bill, literally his only ally and lifeline. The horror here goes way beyond physical danger now. This thing is intelligent, it's deceptive, and it knows exactly how to play games with Mark's mind. Part 4, the uncanny photograph. We're moving into that 3:30 to 4:30 block now, and you better brace yourself because this is where the script delivers its most grotesque visual reveal sent directly to Mark's phone. Let's really break down the specific details of this image because they are wild. It's a grainy shot of Mark's own living room. You can see Mark standing right there by the door. But then, tucked way back inside the fireplace, there's a face. And the face is Mark's, except the eyes are blown wide open,
totally unblinking, and the mouth is stretched open maybe 3 times wider than is humanly possible. Reading those grotesque details just instantly triggers your imagination, doesn't it? It completely cements the sheer, visceral panic of the doppelganger trope.
As if that wasn't enough, the voice outside the door decides to taunt him again. "Mark, I know you're in there. I can smell your fear. It smells like me." That line is just absolutely chilling, and it perfectly encapsulates the entire theme of the story, really, the horrifying violation of losing your identity and your one safe space. The monster didn't just break into his house, it's effectively becoming him, right down to the very scent of his fear.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our final section, Part 5, The Doppelganger Wins. We're in the final 30 seconds. The tension has totally peaked, Mark has his knife ready, and the climax is finally here.
Let's step through these final fatal moments together. Step 1. The door opens, but there's nobody there. Step 2. Mark looks down and sees his own shadow on the wall, but the shadow isn't holding a knife. Instead, the shadow is reaching out from Mark's own neck. And then, Step 3. We just cut to the aftermath. The police find Mark's phone on the floor. There's no blood, no signs of a struggle, nothing. This is exactly why the psychological horror works so incredibly well here. There's no big, gory fight scene. The threat bypassed physical combat entirely. His own shadow, literally an inescapable part of his physical self, became independent and turned on him.
And the script leaves us with one final, deeply chilling piece of evidence. The police find a single audio file drafted on Mark's phone. It's Mark's voice, but it says, "Finally, I get to be the real one." This incredibly grim resolution totally cements the fact that the mimic won. The transition is done. The entity didn't just eliminate Mark, it fully replaced him, and nobody else in the world even has a clue.
So the big takeaway from The Neighbor in the Mirror is really about how brilliantly it weaponizes our own feelings of safety and identity against us. It's a stark reminder that the greatest horror doesn't always come from some unknown monster outside, but from the quiet distortion of what's intimately familiar to us. Which leads me to a question I want to leave you with. If your shadow moved on its own right now, would you even notice? Take a good look around your living room tonight. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, stay curious.